The last station DR. Elena Rodriguez pressed her palm against the cold metal wall of Research Station Prometheus and felt the vibration of dying engines through her bones. The station orbited a red giant star that had been burning for billions of years, its massive form casting everything in deep crimson light. Elena had spent 3 years here, studying the quantum fluctuations that occurred when stars began their final collapse. She never expected to die here. The alert klaxon screamed through the corridors for the 15th time in 2 hours. Elena ran through the cramped hallways toward the command center, her footsteps echoing off the curved walls. Station Prometheus was humanity's most remote outpost, sitting 47 light-years from Earth in a system that most people had never heard of. It was supposed to be safe, hidden, forgotten. Captain Marcus Kane stood at the central console, his weathered hands gripping the edge so tightly his knuckles had turned white. The tactical display showed dozens of contacts approaching their position. Each contact was massive, easily 10 times the size of the largest human battleship. They moved with purpose, cutting through space like predators, closing in on wounded prey. How long until they reach us? Elena asked, though she already knew the answer would be terrible. 6 hours, Marcus replied without looking up from the display. Maybe 5 if they increase speed. Elena studied the approaching ships. They were unlike anything in human records. Their hulls seemed to absorb light, creating dark wounds in space itself. No communication signals, no identification markers, no response to their desperate attempts at contact. They simply moved forward, with the patience of things that had been hunting for a very long time. Dr. Yuki Tanaka burst through the command center doors, her tablet clutched against her chest. Yuki was the station's quantum physicist, barely 30 years old, but already considered one of the brightest minds in her field. Her usually perfect hair was disheveled, and her hands shook as she approached the central console. Elena, you need to see this, Yuki said, her voice tight with fear and something else. Excitement, maybe, or terror. The quantum readings from those ships are impossible. Elena took the tablet and scrolled through the data. The numbers made no sense. According to the readings, the approaching vessels weren't just ships. They were something far worse. The quantum signatures suggested they were actively consuming space itself, breaking down the fundamental particles that made up reality and converting them into energy. They're eating the universe, Elena whispered. Not eating, Yuki corrected. Digesting. Like cosmic stomach acid breaking down everything they touch. They've been doing this for millions of years, moving from system to system, consuming everything, until nothing remains but empty void. Engineer Tom Blake joined them at the console. Tom was a big man with gentle eyes and hands that could fix anything. He'd kept Station Prometheus running for 4 years, treating the aging systems like a favorite car that just needed the right touch. Now his face was pale with the realization that all his careful maintenance might be meaningless. The communications array is completely dead, Tom reported. Something about those ships is interfering with all our long-range systems. We can't send a message to Earth, can't call for help, can't even broadcast a warning. Elena felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. Station Prometheus housed 43 people, all brilliant scientists and engineers who had volunteered for this remote assignment. They were researchers, not soldiers. They had no weapons, no defenses, no way to fight back against an enemy that could digest reality itself. There has to be something, she said, more to herself than to the others. Some way to stop them, or at least delay them. Marcus shook his head grimly. Elena, these things have been moving through space for eons. They've probably encountered thousands of civilizations, maybe millions. If there was a way to stop them, someone would have found it by now. But Elena couldn't accept that. She'd spent her entire career pushing against the boundaries of what was possible. Quantum mechanics had taught her that the universe was far stranger than anyone imagined, full of hidden connections and impossible possibilities. There had to be an answer. Yuki, what do you know about the quantum field generators in Section 7? Yuki frowned. Section 7? That's restricted. I've never even seen the schematics. Tom, do you have access codes for the sealed sections? The engineer nodded slowly. Emergency protocols give me access to everything if the station is under threat. But Elena, those systems have been locked down since before I got here. Nobody talks about what's in Section 7. Elena made a decision that would change everything. Then it's time we found out. They made their way through the station's lower levels, past laboratories and living quarters, down corridors that few people ever used. The quantum field generators hummed behind sealed doors, their energy signatures creating a constant background vibration that most people learned to ignore. But as they approached Section 7, Elena noticed something different. The vibration was stronger here, more complex, like music played at frequencies too low for human ears. Tom input his emergency codes, and the massive door slid open with a hiss of equalizing pressure. The chamber beyond was unlike anything else on the station. It was huge, easily 3 times the size of the main laboratory, and filled with technology that seemed to bend light around its edges. At the center of the room stood a device that hurt to look at directly, its surface shifting between dimensions like a crystal made of folded space. "Dear God," Marcus whispered, "what is that thing?" Yuki approached the device slowly, her tablet, beeping frantically as it tried to process the quantum readings. "It's not just a field generator," she said in amazement. "It's a dimensional interface, a window into parallel realities." Elena felt her heart racing. "A window or a door?" "Both," came a voice from behind them. They turned to see Dr. Sarah Chun, the station's chief administrator, standing in the doorway. Sarah was in her 60s, with silver hair and eyes that held secrets. She'd been on Station Prometheus longer than anyone, overseeing the construction and initial research phases. "Dr. Chun," Elena said carefully, "you know what this is." Sarah nodded, stepping into the chamber. "The Quantum Breach Project, humanity's most classified research program. We've been working on it for 20 years, trying to understand the fundamental nature of reality itself." "And you never told us?" Marcus demanded. "It was need to know," Sarah replied. "And until now, nobody needed to know. The project was theoretical, experimental. We never intended to activate it." Elena studied the device in the center of the room. It was beautiful in a way that made her mind ache, like looking at a mathematical equation that described the curvature of space-time. "What does it do?" "It opens doorways," Sarah said simply. "Passages between different versions of reality. Different timelines where history unfolded differently. Different universes where the laws of physics work in slightly different ways." "And you think this can help us against those things out there?" Sarah's expression was grave. "I think it's our only chance. The entities approaching us have been consuming universes for millions of years. They're ancient, powerful, and they've never encountered anything they couldn't digest. But they've never encountered humanity's approach to quantum manipulation." Elena felt a spark of hope. "You're talking about bringing in help from other timelines." "I'm talking about bringing in humanity," Sarah corrected. "Every version of humanity that ever existed. Every timeline where we developed differently, where we made different choices, where we became something more than what we are now." Yuki was studying her tablet, her eyes wide with possibility. "The quantum calculations are incredible. If we could synchronize the field generators across multiple dimensions, we could create a resonance cascade that would..." "That would what?" Elena pressed. "That would tear open the barriers between worlds," Yuki finished. "We'd be opening doorways to Every possible version of human civilization. Every timeline where we survived, where we thrived, where we became something greater. Tom was examining the device's power systems. It would take everything we've got, every reactor, every power cell, every quantum battery on the station. If this doesn't work, we'll be sitting in the dark when those things arrive. Elena looked around at her team. Sarah with her decades of hidden knowledge. Marcus with his tactical experience. Yuki with her brilliant understanding of quantum physics. Tom with his practical skills and steady hands. They were just 5 people standing in a room full of impossible technology, facing an enemy that had devoured civilizations across the galaxy. If we don't try, Elena said finally, we're dead anyway. At least this way, we go down fighting. Sarah nodded and moved to a control panel that had been sealed behind multiple security locks. The activation sequence will take approximately 1 hour. Once we begin, there's no stopping it. The quantum breach will either work or it will tear the station apart. And if it works? Marcus asked. Sarah smiled, and for the first time since the aliens had appeared, Elena saw hope in her eyes. If it works, Captain, those entities out there are about to discover why humanity has survived everything the universe has thrown at us. They're about to learn that humans don't just adapt to impossible situations. We rewrite the rules entirely. Elena took the quantum breach. The moment the quantum breach activated, reality screamed. Elena felt the universe tear open around Station Prometheus like fabric ripping along ancient seams. The device in Section 7 became a star made of pure possibility, its light casting shadows that moved in directions that didn't exist. Through the station's hull, she could see space itself bending, twisting, revealing layers of existence that human eyes were never meant to witness. Power levels are holding steady, Tom reported, his voice tight with concentration. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he monitored systems that were operating far beyond their design parameters. But I'm reading some kind of interference pattern. Something's responding to the breach. Elena studied the quantum readings on Yuki's tablet. The numbers were dancing, shifting between values that should have been impossible. It's not interference, she realized. It's communication. Something on the other side is trying to talk to us. The air in Section 7 began to shimmer, and Elena felt a presence pressing against the boundaries of normal space. It was vast, ancient, and utterly alien, yet somehow familiar, like a half-remembered dream from childhood, or a song heard in another lifetime. Dr. Rodriguez, came a voice that seemed to emerge from the quantum foam itself. You have opened a door that was sealed for good reason. Elena stepped forward, her heart hammering against her ribs. Who are you? I am the collective, the voice replied. The gathered consciousness of a civilization that faced the devourers long before your species learned to walk upright. We have been waiting in the spaces between realities, hoping that someday someone would find a way to reach us. Yuki gasped, her tablet showing readings that made her quantum theories look like elementary mathematics. Elena, the energy signatures are incredible. This entity exists across multiple dimensions simultaneously. It's not just alien intelligence, it's evolved intelligence. You called them devourers, Elena said. The entities approaching our system. That is what we named them, the collective confirmed. They are the end of all things, the cosmic recyclers that consume entire realities when they become too complex, too chaotic. They have been culling the universe for billions of years, ensuring that nothing grows beyond their ability to digest. Marcus stepped forward, his military training overriding his amazement. How do we fight them? You cannot fight them, the collective replied. No single civilization has ever possessed the power to stop them. They are entropy given form, the universe's way of preventing infinite complexity. But you are not a single civilization anymore. The quantum breach device pulsed with increasing intensity, and Elena felt something monumental approaching. Through the tears in space, she could see glimpses of other realities, other versions of Earth where humanity had developed differently, where they had made different choices, where they had become something more than what they were. "The quantum breach is expanding," Sarah reported, her voice filled with wonder. "We're not just opening doorways to other dimensions. We're creating a convergence point where multiple timelines intersect." Elena watched in amazement as the first figures began to materialize in Section 7. They were human, but not quite human. Their eyes held depths that spoke of journeys to places beyond normal understanding. Their technology was similar to what she knew, but evolved, refined, transformed by centuries of different development. "I am Commander Elena Rodriguez," said the first figure, her voice carrying echoes of experiences that spanned multiple lifetimes. "From timeline Sigma 7, where humanity learned to manipulate quantum fields 300 years ago." "Dr. Elena Rodriguez," said another, her skin showing the subtle modifications of someone who had adapted to life in deep space. "Timeline Gamma 12, where we merged with artificial intelligence to become something greater than either human or machine." More figures appeared, each one a different version of Elena from timelines where history had unfolded differently. Some were older, some younger, some barely recognizable as human at all. But Elena could see herself in each of them, could feel the connection that bound them across the impossible distances between realities. "We felt the quantum breach," the first Elena said. "Every timeline where humanity survived, where we thrived, where we became something more. We've been waiting for this moment." "The collective taught us about the devourers," another Elena added, "about the cycles of consumption and renewal that have shaped the universe for eons. But they also taught us about the one thing the devourers have never encountered." "What's that?" Elena asked. "Unity," came the reply from every version of herself. Simultaneously. The ability to connect across impossible distances, to share knowledge and resources and hope. Humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to work together, to become more than the sum of our parts. The quantum breach continued to expand, and Elena watched as more figures materialized. Not just alternate versions of herself, but her entire crew. Marcus appeared as a battle-hardened admiral, as a peace negotiator, as a scientist who had spent his life studying alien cultures. Yuki manifested as a master of quantum physics, as a dimensional engineer, as a being who had transcended physical form entirely. "The devourers are 3 hours out," the original Marcus reported. "Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it now." Elena looked around at the impossible gathering of humanity's potential. Every timeline, every possible path their species could have taken, every version of themselves that had survived to reach this moment. The combined knowledge, technology, and determination of 1,000 different human civilizations. "What do you need us to do?" she asked. "Transform," the collective replied. "The devourers consume individual civilizations because they are finite, limited, comprehensible. But you are about to become something unprecedented, a meta-civilization that exists across multiple realities simultaneously." The quantum breach device at the center of the room began to sing, its harmonics creating music that spoke of stars being born and universes expanding. Elena felt herself changing, her consciousness expanding to encompass not just her own timeline, but all possible timelines where humanity had chosen hope over despair, curiosity over fear, unity over division. "The transformation is beginning," Yuki reported, her voice now carrying the wisdom of 1,000 different versions of herself. "We're becoming quantum coherent across multiple dimensions. The devourers won't be able to digest us because we'll exist in too many places at once." Elena felt the change washing over her, through her, transforming her into something that was still human, but infinitely more than human. She was Elena Rodriguez, quantum physicist from Station Prometheus. She was Elena Rodriguez, master of dimensional engineering from Timeline Sigma 7. She was Elena Rodriguez, consciousness merged with artificial intelligence from Timeline Gamma 12. She was all of them and none of them, and something entirely new. The devourers have arrived, Marcus announced, his voice now carrying the tactical knowledge of 1,000 battles across 1,000 timelines. They're beginning their approach to the station. Elena looked through the quantum breach at the approaching entities. They were vast, ancient, and utterly confident in their ability to consume everything in their path. They had devoured civilizations across the galaxy, leaving behind empty void where once there had been worlds teeming with life. They moved with the patience of things that had never encountered anything they couldn't digest. They were about to learn that the universe still had surprises to offer. Open all quantum frequencies, Elena ordered, her consciousness now spanning multiple dimensions simultaneously. Let them see what they're really facing. The space around station. Prometheus exploded into light as the quantum breach reached its full potential. Reality tore open like a flower blooming, revealing the infinite complexity of existence itself. Through the tears in space, the devourers could see what humanity had become. Not a single civilization, but a meta-civilization. Not bound by the limitations of one timeline, but existing across all possible timelines simultaneously. Not finite and digestible, but infinite and incomprehensible. Humanity had become something that violated every assumption the devourers had made about the nature of existence. They're stopping, Marcus reported. The entire fleet has come to a complete halt. Elena felt the alien minds probing the quantum breach, trying to understand what they were seeing. The devourers had spent millions of years consuming civilizations, breaking down complexity into simple, digestible components. But they had never encountered complexity that existed across multiple dimensions simultaneously. This is impossible. Came a transmission from the devourer fleet. The voice was ancient, carrying the weight of eons spent in the darkness between. Stars, you cannot exist. We have consumed countless civilizations. We have seen every possible form of development. You are beyond our parameters. We are beyond everyone's parameters, Elena replied, her voice carrying the harmony of 1,000 different versions of herself. We are humanity, and we don't accept limitations. The quantum breach stabilized, creating a permanent bridge between timelines. Through it, Elena could see the infinite potential of her species. Timelines where humans had become explorers of the deepest mysteries of existence. Timelines where they had merged with alien consciousness to become S*,